Well, I want to welcome everybody to Sports Conditioning and Rehabilitation, SCAR. My name is Jim Herkimer, and on behalf of Michelle and I, we want to welcome you all. This is your cue. We have an incredible evening tonight, and I can't even begin to say that I have absolutely the coolest job in the world. Because I have the opportunity to work with some incredible people. So I'm really excited and thrilled beyond belief, actually, that we were able to make this happen with Matthew Slater. Really, the first day that I met him, I thought, man, this young man is someone special. And it wasn't that he filled the room, you know, with his size. He was a receiver and returner, kick returner, and I knew he was fast because that's kind of what I was working with him on. And lo and behold, he ends up third in the state meet in the 100-meter finals, and came out of nowhere for that one. And it ends up at UCLA. And when you look at Matthew at UCLA, you got 310-pound guys, and you got Matthew. And the amazing thing is he outperformed everybody there, in my opinion. And I thought, wow, what is it that drives this young man? And clearly, it's more than just about playing football. Matthew has a life philosophy, I think, that transcends more than his current occupation. And I think it has to do with giving back to the community. It has to do with sharing his life and doing the things that are important to him and important to the rest of us. So I'm very excited to have Matthew Slater come up and share his experience and talk about the things that he has done to get to the level of being the best special teams player in the National Football League. Matthew Slater.
Well, thank you, Jim. That was far too kind of you. My hat's off to you guys, at the Challenge Athletes Foundation, and what you guys are doing is really special, and I'm glad that we're building the awareness that we are tonight. The beauty of sport is it parallels life in so many different ways. You learn so many lessons on the field, on the court, whatever it may be that carry you until the day you leave this earth. And I just thank God that I've been able to be a part of the game of football that I've been over these past, it's been over 10 years now, back to my days at Servite. And, football has taught me so many different things. Discipline, hard work, dedication, teamwork, camaraderie, and the list goes on and on. But the two things that I want to talk to you guys about tonight are dealing with adversity and learning to put others before yourself. There's been quite a bit of those lessons that I've learned throughout my career. As you guys heard, I went to Servite, and I started my football career over there. I was a 5'5", 130-pound freshman. A far cry from my dad, who's sitting back there, who's 6'5", and we won't give you his weight. We'll just say big. But, I obviously looked up to my father in so many ways, and, as any young kid, just like when I was your guys' age, I had the dream of, playing professional football. But little did I know what it would take to get there and how my journey would kind of unfold itself. So I was at Servite for 4 years, Coach Larry Toner over there, and I went on to UCLA. And at UCLA, I really learned a lot of things, and the most important things I learned were the things off the field. I'd like to think I started to become a man at UCLA. I went up to UCLA, I had gotten a scholarship, feeling pretty good about myself, you know, feeling pretty good about the knowledge my dad had shared with me. I think it's safe to say I thought I was the man. I thought I had all the answers, and I thought, you know, it's just a formality now. I just go up here, do my thing like I've been doing, and I'm going to go to the league. And that was everybody's mentality. You know, you get a lot of young guys who have been the man their whole careers up to that point, and they think, hey, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go to the NFL. But the reality is that's not how it plays itself out. Now, I'll tell you, at UCLA, I think I spent more time on the sidelines than I did on the field. I went up there the second day of camp, I got a toe injury, severe turf toe. I couldn't walk for 8 weeks. I didn't practice for 8 weeks. So that was 1 year down. 1 year just standing around, watching the guys play, watching the guys practice. Well, I said, it's going to be next year. It's going to be next year. The next year I go up there, I partially tear my patella tendon in spring football. So that sets me back. I miss a lot of time with that. And that's 2 years down. You know, but at this point, I'm still remaining optimistic that, you know, things are going to work out in my favor. My third year I go up there, I have a stress fracture, a stress reaction in my lower leg. I'm in a walking boot. So this is 3 years of, you know, frustration, injury, you know, things not really going the way that the master plan had them going. And you would think, oh, well, 3 years, I'm going to play my junior and senior year, everything's going to work out. Well, my junior year, training camp, I tore my labrum in my shoulder. So this is 4 years in a row of me getting hurt at UCLA. You know, fortunately, I was able to get on the field a little bit my junior year and kind of find a little niche for myself. But at this point, I'm thinking, I got to be honest with you guys, I'm thinking there's not a lot of guys that have been hurt 4 years standing on the sideline that have had a chance to go to the pros. So I started preparing myself for my second career. You know, I have a passion for ministry and working with children. And we go to Calvary Church right here down the street, and I was getting ready to go over there and prepare to intern with the high school youth group. And I was thinking, you know, my football career, my days might be numbered. But during this time, you know, it was hard for me. You know, I had a plan, I had a dream, and it wasn't going according to plan. And, you know, I learned some valuable lessons. My dad told me that, you know, nothing comes easy in this life, son. You have to work for things. Things are not just going to go your way, and things are definitely not just going to go your way because you're my son, and I've had the success I've had. And he told me to keep faith. And for me, those of you who know me personally, you know that faith is a big part of my life. At this time, I really had to lean on my faith because I wasn't sure what the plan was, why things had gone totally opposite of what I thought they were going to go. So this is what I tell you guys dealing with adversity. This is just a small example of that, or whatever it may be. We might lose a loved one. We might not get the job we want. Us older folks, we might lose our home. We might, whatever it may be. There are going to be storms in our lives, and I just want you guys to understand that. Even you young people, you know, you might get detention or something. It might not go the way you want it. You know, you might not make the team or whatever it may be. But all of us are going to have to deal with adversity in some way, shape, or form. And how we deal with that adversity is going to define us, and that's when our character really comes through. And for me, I'm going to be honest with you, there were times where I lost faith. You know, I was frustrated, I was down on myself, I was angry. You know, I could have gone to any school just about, and I chose UCLA, and I was resenting going to UCLA at one point in time, to be honest with you, just because things hadn't worked out. But what I learned was to keep faith, and I really had to rely on my faith at this time, and it was really put to the test. And little did I know that things were going to turn around the way that they did. Going into my senior year, you know, I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to get on the field. And like Jim said, I went into UCLA. I was a wide receiver. You know, I thought I was going to go up there and break all kind of touchdown records, do this, that, and the other. I'm going in my fourth year. I hadn't caught any touchdowns, nothing. And I'm playing defense now. So I'm not even playing receiver anymore. And, you know, my senior year, it was really a miracle to explain what happened my senior year. I was able to stay healthy for a change, so that was a good thing. And, you know, I was able to do some things on the football field, set a few records, actually. kick returning and things like that, play some defense and do things like that. And I'm thinking, well, I persevered. This thing, it didn't go like I wanted it to, but it went all right. I went out on a good note. I was an All-American my senior year, and I'm thinking, I had a good career, and I'm going to head back to Orange County, and we're going to start the ministry up. But little did I know that people took interest in that, and this brings me to my second point: learning how to be selfless. Now, I don't know if a lot of you know what I do. You probably watch the Patriots, Tom Brady, Gronkowski, and those other guys. But I play special teams, and that's pretty much the psychos out there on the field, running around, throwing their bodies around like there is no tomorrow. And what I learned was, to be a part of something great, to be a part of a team. As in life, sometimes it's not always about you and your personal achievement and your personal goals being reached. I learned that sometimes the greater good is better than my personal good. And that mentality I kind of bought into the no-name special teams type of guy. So I said, hey, whatever I can do to help this team, I'm going to do it. And so I started playing special teams in college. Now, a lot of guys in college, many of you may not know this, but nobody wants to play special teams in college. Everybody wants to be the man. They want their name called. They want the song team screaming their number. They want the UCLA fight, fight, fight. All you SC people, UCLA. And they, everybody wants their name called. But I kind of bought in at that time. I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I have to do for this team to be able to have success. And for me to give myself an opportunity to contribute. And that's just like dealing with relationships in life and certain situations. We may have a job where, hey, we aspire to be the manager, we aspire to be the CEO, but hey, maybe it doesn't work out for us that way. But we have another role that we can play that is vital to the company. And same with you kids. Maybe you're on a team, a youth team right now, and you're not always the guy making all the plays, but everybody has a role to play. I related to a marriage also. I've gotten a great example. My parents have been married 36 years now, and you see, my dad oftentimes, it's not about what he wants. It's about what mom wants. And these are lessons that I've learned in football, that selflessness and that dealing with adversity that translates to life. So after UCLA, I kind of got a few interesting phone calls, we'll say, that led me to believe I might have an opportunity to play at the next level. And one thing led to another. I ended up getting drafted by the New England Patriots in the 5th round in 2008, going all the way to the other side of the country to a team I hated at the time. Because they had beaten my Rams in the Super Bowl. And I was, I didn't know how I felt about that. It wasn't too crazy about Tom Brady, Teddy Bruschi, and all those guys. But, to have that opportunity to go over there to a place where they preach nothing but dealing with adversity and being a team player, I was like, man, it was just like all my experiences at UCLA lined me up to be a part of what I feel is the best organization in sports. So I go out there and still didn't manage to escape the injury bug, as Jim knows. I've had a few injuries. I actually just had surgery, but I've been able to stay on the field. So that's been a plus. And, the experience I've had out there has been tremendous. I've been able to play in a Super Bowl. I've been able to be a captain on a team that went 13-3. And go out there alongside Tom and those guys and Vince Wilford, and it's been a tremendous experience for me. But what I really want to encourage you guys to think about as we leave here tonight is how you're going to deal with adverse times in your life, because they will come. I can guarantee you that. No matter the shape, size, or form, whatever they may be, I want you guys to think about dealing with adversity, not only for yourself, but for those dependent on you. You mothers, fathers in here, your children, your husbands, wives, your spouses that are dependent on you. You kids, your brothers and sisters that are dependent on you, your cousins. Dealing with those things, because adverse times will come. And I tell you, playing in the National Football League, at my size, there's going to be a lot of adverse times. So I'm still dealing with them. But, you know, what I just want you guys to kind of think about that, ponder that as you go back home tonight. You know, we really appreciate the Challenge Athletes Foundation and the awareness that they're bringing. And these people, I mean, the courage that they show day in and day out dealing with what they have to deal with, it's unbelievable. Because really we can't really relate to what they're having to go through. So my hat's definitely off to you guys. You guys are the real heroes. I thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me tonight, and I hope that as you go out and continue to enjoy your summer, you give some of these things a thought. You really think about, you know, leaving this world off to be a better place than when you left it. You know, impacting the lives around you. And if you think you're just one person and you can't make change, you're thinking wrong. There's so many ways you can impact those around you in your community. There's so much good that you can go out there and do. And just because things don't always go your way initially doesn't mean in the end that things won't work out for you. Just keep keeping that faith, keep keeping on. And, you know, I thank you guys for coming out. God bless.
So, with no further ado, let me introduce to you Tina Pauly from the Challenge Athletes Foundation.
I'm really honored to be able to introduce Travis, and I'm just going to give you a brief introduction, and I'm going to let him talk. But Travis, they found a tumor in his knee when he was 17. High school senior, played all the sports, and he had to go through chemotherapy and a lot of time in the hospital. And then they realized that he got a couple bad staph infections, and he had to continue to have 16 surgeries. And then he probably had to make the hardest decision anyone would ever have to make. If he wanted to continue to play sports, he would have to have his leg amputated. So he did that, but now he's a member of the USA sitting volleyball team. He's an awesome triathlete. He mentors kids. He is an all-around great guy. So without further ado, Travis Ricks.
Thank you, Tina. It's great to be in a house with a guy like that. And, you know, have all the guys from SCAR, you know, allowing us to come here and speak to you is a great thing. I'll tell you a little bit about my story, and then what I'll do is I'll tell you a little bit about what I do. I actually work for Challenge Athletes Foundation now, and I get to do a lot of really cool things. So I'll tell you where I've come from to the point where I'm at now and what I'm doing. Like Tina said, I was an athlete growing up. I did all the sports I could. Baseball was my childhood sport. Loved it. I played it all my life, and then I did what a lot of kids do when you get to high school. You kind of rebel and you say, I'm not going to play that sport anymore. I'm going to try some new stuff. And what I did is I played football. I was the smallest guy on the football team. I played tailback and defensive line. We weren't the best team. But I had a lot of tenacity on the team. I actually I was a fighter. I mean, they put me down there for a reason. I was actually nose guard of all line positions, and you know, I got more sacks than anybody else on the team. And you know, that led into the next sport that I did, which was a natural fit for me. I was a wrestler. You could probably tell by the ears. I didn't know that I was meant for wrestling. I'd never seen the sport. I didn't know anything about it, and I started. You know, I tried out for the team because I knew I couldn't play soccer, and I sure as heck couldn't shoot hoops. So I joined the team, and you know, it was rough going the first couple of years. I mean, I don't know if anybody here has ever wrestled or ever seen the sport, but it's tough. And I got beat up quite a lot in the first couple of years, and somewhere inside things clicked for me, and I actually got really well. I got good, and I was headed to the point where I was probably going to be a college athlete. I was looking at trying to go to ASU. If anybody knows anything about ASU and amputees, there's a little bit of a correlation there. Anthony Robles, the NCAA champion last year, was an amputee. Did an amazing job, undefeated his senior year. It's phenomenal. Could have been me. But I actually had dreams to be an athlete in college, and I was a very good wrestler. Went 33-3 my junior year before having an issue with grades. Do your homework. Then I came back my senior year to find out that I had contracted a rare disease, rare cancer. And it was actually during football season. I started limping for no reason. People would stop me in the hallway and say, "What's wrong?" And I go, "I don't know. I can't walk straight." Went to the doctor a couple times, decided to ask what was up, and they said, "Oh, just ice your knee. It's probably a sprained knee." So I listened, 17-year-old kid. One thing I had to mention at this time, it was that my parents, I have great parents. They were young. My parents are only about 18 years older than me, and they kind of took some wrong paths in life. And when I was in high school, actually when I was a kid, my dad got busted for dealing drugs. So I lived a very strange life when I was young. I used to move around a lot. And him and my mom got divorced when he was in jail, and I thought things were great. We got to the high school, and I made my mom promise me that I would stay at the same high school for 4 years. And this is a kind of a part of my story, which is, to be honest with you, my story's got a lot of struggles in it, a lot of overcoming some adversity and using sports to do that. I fought hard to be an athlete, didn't fight so hard to be an academic student, but I didn't have anybody there in my life to push me to do that, because at the time, I didn't know, but my mother had kind of taken the path that my father had taken. And when I was a junior in high school, right before they found out I had cancer, she had gone away to jail for doing the same thing. And so I was forced to actually move to Arizona. I never thought I'd come back to San Diego. That's where I'm from, by the way. And I had some friends that actually kind of pulled me back in and got me back down to San Diego to keep the promise that my mother was supposed to keep me in the same school for 4 years so that I continued to be with my friends and do the athletics. The part of the reason I tell this part of my story is that there was nobody around in my life at this time. I was living at a friend's house. I had no parents to take me to the doctors. I had nobody to check my grades or do anything. I was kind of doing it on my own. I was 17 and in a bad place where, my health was deteriorating, and I didn't know why, and I wasn't smart enough to check it out. So 2 months go by, and I'm, at this time my mom's in and out of rehab, and she's there trying to be supportive, but she can't really do what a parent's supposed to do and take care of their child. I was in the middle of my 6th game of the season as a tailback. Running down, I think I broke for 10 yards. It was the second play of the game. It was turned out to be a pretty good game for me. And some guy grabbed me from the back, pulled on my jersey, and I went down. When I was on the floor after everybody broke it up, I couldn't bend my leg. I couldn't get up. So I did a little army crawl off the field. And I'm over in the corner, and I remember hearing the coach screaming at me to get back on the field. I can't walk. So we rushed off to the hospital and took some x-rays and some blood work, and I didn't think anything of it until I get a phone call the next day when the hospital was closed, or the doctor's office, and they said, "You need to get in here now." Come to find out, I had a rare tumor, and it was a tumor that is a childhood tumor. It's a bone tumor that grows on anybody from the age of 11 to 27, they say. So, it's not uncommon, but it is quite common in youth. So I had to go from being an athlete, where the only thing that mattered to me was sports and girls, to worrying about how I'm going to survive, if I'm going to make it to the next day. And I spent some time in the hospital. I lost all my hair, all my good looks. And, it was tough. I mean, you really start to realize at that point in your life the things that matter and things that are important. And, I actually was behind by 6 units, a whole semester behind in school. I somehow, during the time of the 8 months of chemotherapy that senior year, put in an extra 6 units of school at home at the time when I knew I wasn't possibly going to live in the next year. Was able to graduate on time. I had a lot of support, and I had more people in my corner from my high school than I've ever seen show up at a hospital. They actually had to give me special rooms so that I could fit all my friends. But the great part of that time in my life was that I'm pretty sure that the focus on my cancer and the illness that I had was able to pull my mom out of her situation. She's actually gone on to be, I think she's now 15 years sober of alcohol and drugs. She's gone on to make positive impact in her own life and mine. She's taught me some very important lessons in life about how to be a strong worker, how to come back from a really bad situation. And I've used that in my own life. I went on to start doing things again. I started coaching. My senior year, actually, I spent all the time in the hospital losing my hair and wearing a mask. But I remember every Saturday, wrestling tournament, Saturday, they last all day long. And I remember going from the hospital, I'd be sitting on the edge of the bed, just kind of twiddling my thumbs, waiting for that doctor to come in and give me the release so that I could run to the wrestling tournament and start coaching my teammates. I was the captain of the team, and I felt like I needed to be there. It probably wasn't a smart thing to be around a bunch of sweaty people and you don't have any blood cells. But I was determined, and nobody was going to stop me, and my mom saw that in my eyes, and she made sure I was there. I've gone on to continue to coach. I'm actually now the head coach of my high school wrestling team. I've been the head coach for 3 years. Last year we won our CIF championship for the first time in 23 years. Yeah. And I have to say that is the pride and joy of all the things that I've ever been able to go on to do. I like to consider myself an athlete. I thought and still think I'm a pretty good athlete, but I've come to find out I'm a pretty darn good coach. So, you know, sometimes there's blessings in disguise. And I think that finding out that I'm a coach was one of them. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I do now, because obviously I didn't die. I actually went on to do some things, do some sports. And like Tina said, I actually found out when I was 21 I had some staph infections. And, you know, things were looking good. Things were looking up. I was like, yeah, I beat this thing. This is great. And then there, you know, was something wrong with my knee. I went in and had a surgery, and then 6 weeks later, my temperature is 105. And they rush me in, and I go and have an emergency surgery, clean out the wound, and I had a metal knee replacement. And they cleaned it out, and they thought they got it. And then 6 weeks later, I got it again. Thought they got that, so on, so on. 16 open knee surgeries later, the doctor's looking at me, and we're sitting in a room, and he decides to be candid. He says, you know what? You got two choices. The next time this happens, you can either put in a spacer and never bend your knee again, or you can amputate. And I kind of was shocked, because I mean, my whole time, I'm like, I'm going back to sports. I'm gonna be a wrestler. You know, college is still calling, and now I got to cut my leg off. So I thought about it, and I kind of put it in the back of my mind. That's not going to happen. You know, it won't come back like it hadn't before. And it did. It came back, and I decided that, you know what, it's funny, you know, Tina says that it was a simple decision, and it really was, but it wasn't about doing sports at the time that I made the decision. It was about, how am I going to sit in an airplane if I've got a straight leg? The weirdest things go through your mind. But I remember doing some research. I remember my mom coming home and going, we saw a guy running down the beach with one leg. I'm like, okay, I guess it'll be all right. But at the time, I still had reservations. I didn't know. But you know, to me, it was a simple choice. Let's move on. Let's get this over with. Let's cut the dead weight and go. You know, to put it candid. And went through with it. And you know, one of the things that I've decided that you always got to look forward and keep a positive attitude about this. And through the entire time, I kind of had done that. But you know, when it came to the amputation, it was, let's do this and let's move on. And that's what I did. But I really didn't move on. I was kind of stuck in a little bout of depression. You know, when sports are your life and everything's taken away from you, you kind of fall into dark places where you don't think things are going to look up. And I remember my mom she looked on the internet and found this guy. He had a website called onefootloose.com, which I thought was quite morbid. But he happened to live, out of all the World Wide Web, he lived 3 blocks away from me at the time. And at first I was like, I don't need any amputee friends. I got my own friends. I don't want to meet this guy. But she told him, you know, keep trying. And about 3 months afterwards, he called me, and he ended up being a great guy. He was only about a year older than me, and he showed me that as an amputee, you can move on, and you can live your life, and you can do some things. And I think we went to a little support group meeting, and I think he was showing off a little bit, but he forgot his keys, and so he did this little move and ran back to go get his keys and came back. And I'm looking at him like, you can do that, I can do that too. So I was bound and determined to get back into sports, and he happened to work at a really cool organization at the time called Challenge Athletes Foundation. And he said, hey, listen, we can get you back into some sports. We can get you doing the things you love again. And he said, why don't you put in for a grant and get a running leg? The first thing I thought about was, well, I never liked running. But okay. I ended up getting that running leg, and it ended up being one of the best things in my life. I still don't like running. But it allowed me to do some things. It allowed me to go out and try some stuff. I started doing triathlons. That ended up being a really, really cool sport. I didn't think endurance sports were my thing. I'm not sure if they are still, but I do them. I go out and I compete. I was able to say I was a national champion last year. I took third this year. But I'm starting to find that it's a great community of people. I got to meet my friend Scout here because of triathlon. She is a phenomenal triathlete herself. You know, the community that I've been able to get involved with through Challenge Athletes Foundation has actually brought me out of that depression, out of that dark place, that hole that I was in, taught me that there's nothing that I can't do. I've gone on to do other things. Like Tina said, I happened to just jump into this event. Work sent me to an event out in Oklahoma, and you know, there were a bunch of people doing some things, and sitting volleyball was one of them. I'm like, I played volleyball in high school. That was my rebellion sport because I didn't want to play baseball. Shortest guy on the team again. And I think I got more hours on the bench sleeping than I did playtime, but I knew how to play. And I sat down, I played in this tournament, and our team took first place. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And they invited me back, and next thing I knew, I was practicing with the national team. And so for the last 2 years, I've been playing with the U.S. team for sitting volleyball. And it's not as easy as it sounds. It's not sitting on your butt like you think, although you're sitting on your butt. I sweat more in that sport than wrestling, guaranteed. But I've gone on to do that. I've gone on to do pretty much anything: rock climbing, snowboarding, surfing, skateboarding, you name it. Anything I've ever done before, everything I've ever wanted to do, I've done. And it's because of the support of Challenge Athletes Foundation and the people around. It's the support of the fundraisers, the donors, the people that have given their time to make sure that this organization is around. I'm able to now be in the programs department, and I help put on clinics. I work closely to help the kids learn how to run. We put on clinics to teach people how to swim, people with disabilities to get back in the water and do some sports like swimming, running. We do paratriathlon camps. I don't know if you guys know that paratriathlon just made it into 2016 Paralympics. So it's going to be the first time it'll be in the Paralympics in 2016. And we're being a big part of heading that and helping that happen. Getting a lot more athletes trained, and I get to see some phenomenal transformational moments of athletes or people that didn't know they could be athletes, or athletes again like myself, through the organization, through what I do. Mostly the best part about what I do is watching the kids just act like kids, and we give them running legs so that they can run around and do things that you take for granted. You know, you never think that just going and running around in the playground or in the grass with other kids would be something that a kid didn't have. And like Tina said, the insurance companies don't believe that a running prosthetic or a sports prosthetic is something that we need. They think it's an accessory item. So Challenge Athletes Foundation feels differently. We feel that that makes a person whole, that gives them a complete life. And so what we've done is we decided that we're going to be there to be able to help anybody with the adaptive equipment that they need, to be able to help them with the funds and the support that they need to be able to do any kind of sports, whether recreational or competitive. And we do that in every aspect, from every age, from guys down to 3 years old to 70-year-old triathletes. And we got them, and we've got some amazing people and some amazing stories. I implore you guys to go out to San Diego Triathlon Challenge. That actually was the moment that changed my life. I was still kind of in that deep, dark depression state, and I showed up to SDTC, San Diego Triathlon Challenge, and I saw 200 athletes running around doing a triathlon and not complaining. So what am I crying about? There's nothing I can say here that's any worse than what these guys are going through. I might as well, pick myself off the ground and get to it. And that's kind of what I did. And now, I'm out doing that and competing in these events as well. So, it's because of this organization and what it does. It's allowing people to get their lives back. or find them for the first time. You know, the other thing is maybe just if you can't make it to SDTC, take a look at the website, go see what we do. We got some amazing videos on YouTube. There's some great stories, great athletes. You know, and find a way to support, whether it's just by volunteering, doing the race and raising the funds, or, you know, passing the information on to someone else. I think that's it. I think I probably tired you guys out from listening to my story a little bit, but I do, like I said, I implore you to do that, and I appreciate you letting me come here. I appreciate the guys from SCAR for letting us come here and share, you know, our stories and CAF to the rest of you guys. And, you know, if you got any questions, feel free to, you know, find me afterwards to talk. I'd love to chat. So thanks for having me.